All right, I know we still have a few more folks jumping in, but we'll go ahead and get going here. It's a pleasure to see you all here today. It's a privilege to get to talk with you about some PowerSchool data collection information for Read to Succeed. This is a really important topic, and we know that you all feel the same, and that's why you're here today. So today I am joined by my colleague, Mary Vulgaris, and also our subject matter colleagues. We've got Jonathan with us, we've got Marie, we've got Alicia, and others here with us. So we've got a great crew here to help you out today. All right, there's some good information that you're going to want to know about some changes in PowerSchool for Read to Succeed that are going to be really helpful to getting high quality data entered for your students. I'm going to turn it over to Mary, who's going to talk through a few of those changes and what those mean for you.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. And hello, everyone. And let me just reiterate Wendy's sentiment that, it's really exciting to be able to talk with you today about this program. It's such a special, wonderful program that I really have a lot of passion for personally. And so I'm excited to talk with you about this data entry. And there are a lot of exciting changes that are coming to the Read to Succeed page. And we started some of those changes last year. We inched it forward a little bit more this year. And I have a feeling even next year we'll inch forward with a few more changes. So let's just dig in. I think that y'all are familiar with, I hope at least, we'll jump over to that page in PowerSchool in a little bit and look at one of our test servers. Just to kind of show some basics of the system. But let's just start by going through some of the changes to the page. We got some screenshots in this presentation to kind of highlight what those changes are. And the very first thing to talk about is the pre and post assessment tools here. They will have a new value added to the list. So this past year, you'll recall that there were a number of grayed out values. So assessments that were no longer available for use. And so those grayed out values are going to be removed from the drop down. So the numbers might look, like some things are missing, and that's intentional because those numbers can't be reused again. So we have to create new numbers when new values are added. So we have down here at the bottom of the list is going to be SC Ready. And that's going to be added as both a pre-assessment and a post-assessment tool. So in sum then, the pre-assessment and post-assessment metrics are going to be MAP, STAR, iReady, MVPA, DRC Beacon, and SC Ready Reading. And these fields need to be completed for all of our students who are attending the summer reading camp. Okay, I want to also highlight that you'll see that these fields are highlighted a green color, and that is, it might look a little different in every district, but if this is how you're seeing it in PowerSchool, that's an indication that level data validations are at work. And we're going to get to a slide a little bit later talking about level data validations, but but what essentially these colors mean is that it's to help you know if you're putting good data in the fields. And so when you've got a green light on your field, it means that you're putting in information that's expected. When the fields turn to yellow or they turn to red, it works just like a stoplight. Yellow is giving you kind of a cautionary warning, and you can click on the little check mark to the right of the field to get more information. And of course, red is telling you you're way off and you need to kind of fix something on your page. And so here, this is showing all green because we haven't really entered anything yet. And so it doesn't really have anything to speak to us yet. But in any case, these color bars are things that you will see in your PowerSchool when you have level data activated. Okay, and then continuing on with the changes to the page. So here you can see the entire Read to Succeed page, all of the field values. And this large red arrow is pointing to the text that is changing here. I'm not entirely sure that that's visible. It's a little bit of a smaller screenshot here. But I wanted to just highlight that the text you're used to seeing on this section is going to be changing. And it's changing to highlight that you're only selecting one GCE now. So in the past, you were able to go through here and check one or two or three GCEs. That is being restricted so that only one GCE option needs to be selected. And the text up at the top here, next to good cause exemptions, says select one GCE for eligible third grade students only. So I believe in this section that every third grade student who participates in the summer reading camp is going to need to have a good cause exemption selected. And so you may have recalled that last year on the right-hand side, we had reading portfolio here, and it had been grayed out last year, so you couldn't actually select that box. This year, that reading portfolio value is being removed. And so that's generally our procedure in PowerSchool when something gets deprecated, and that means we're no longer able to use that value anymore, then that value gets grayed out or somehow is made inaccessible. And so that stays there for a year.
No, this is actually perfect. We're on a summer reading camp webinar, and we did.
And so the reading portfolio value is completely removed this year, and it's going to look a little bit different on the right-hand side of this section. So summer reading camp is going to be moved up then into its place, and then we have superintendent promotion just right below it. The most significant change happening in this section is going to be with superintendent promotion. And so when you select this box, you will now see these two additional checkbox fields appear. One says before camp and the other says after camp. And so there is going to be a requirement to when you select the superintendent promotion value, you will need to indicate whether the superintendent promotion value was or the GCE was applied before camp or whether it was applied after camp. And we have a slide in here where we're going to dig into that a little bit further. But I just want to highlight here on the side that all third graders with a GCE must have this page completed. If they score does not meet on SC Ready Reading, regardless of whether or not they attend camp and or if they have an existing GCE. And so so this is necessary for all of our third grade students. Okay, so here we're just kind of highlighting and focusing in on this superintendent third promotion good cause exemption. And it provides just a couple of examples here for us to dig into. So if a third grade student receives a superintendent GCE prior to SRC, use the before camp value right here. And so this example is a third grade student scores 185 on MAP, where the cut score is 186. The superintendent provides a good cause exemption. Student has an exemption, therefore, and student goes to fourth grade with an IRP. And the other option is if a third grade student receives a superintendent GCE after the summer reading camp, then use the option on the right, the after camp option. So the student has experienced intermittent homeless all year, student scores below the cut score at the end of camp, the parents appeal the retention decision, and the superintendent grants a GCE, student goes to fourth grade with an IRP. I guess before, so here's a graphic visual just of how that GCE application can go. So just with the assessment periods, there's more of a definition of when that before camp and how that's defined, and then the after camp. Would someone from the Read to Succeed staff like to comment any further about these good cause exemptions and when they're applied? Okay, let's keep going then. Okay, and so a new process is in place for the summer of 2026, that there will be a spreadsheet to list the names of all third grade students who are granted a superintendent GCE before camp, after camp, along with a reason for the exemption. So there's going to be a drop-down menu in the Excel that provides the commonly used reasons. Each district will upload one spreadsheet into the ADT portal by August 7th of 2026, and the spreadsheet will be available in June on the OIS webpage under Summer Reading Camp. So SCDE is asking that districts maintain all documentation for the superintendent GCE at the district level in the event that there is an audit. On the right-hand side here, you can see just a screenshot of what that file system looks like in ADT. So when you log into ADT, there's actually several layers of files, and you might not have access to all of the different folders. So what you see on your ADTS screen might look a little different than what we have here. But you want to make sure that you have access to the Summer Reading Camp folder. That will be important. So if you go out into ADT, you can access that through the SCDE website by logging in. You'll want to check to make sure that you have access to the ADTS portal, and that when you log in, that you're seeing that Summer Reading Camp folder there. So that's an important thing to just check before Summer Reading Camp begins, and make sure you have that. If you go ahead.
Sorry, Mary, just a quick question. We have one from Kathy. Let's see, or yes, will the file upload be in addition to the EdFi submission, or are these fields not collected in EdFi? And I think in this case, this is because the spreadsheet is actually for a separate data element that doesn't currently exist in the system, either in PowerSchool or it's sort of for an additional piece of information. So the future could look different, but for right now, you're spot on, Kathy. I think you're hitting the nail on the head that in this case, that would be needed because this element does not exist yet.
That's right. Yeah, so it's the reason. The reason is not a field on the page. And so this spreadsheet is going to be collecting those reasons with the before camp and after camp, and just and that will be used to kind of assess what might be needed for the future in PowerSchool. It might be that we need to add this as a field. We're not really sure, but for this coming summer, it will the reason value will be collected via a spreadsheet. Good question, Kathy. Thank you so much. So the spring interim assessment score is the pre-assessment score for all students who are attending summer reading camp. And we've gone over which tools those are, the MapStar, iReady, MVPA, or the DRC Beacon. And then for districts who have opted to retest their third grade students with SC Ready Reading, at the end of summer reading camp, we'll use the spring SC Ready reading score as the pre-assessment score. For the post-assessment score, third grade students eligible for retention, the post-assessment is going to be their MapStar, iReady, MVPA, DRC Beacon, or SC Ready reading score administered at the end of summer reading camp. And for all other students, the post-assessment score will be their fall interim assessment score from MapStar, iReady, MVPA, or DRC Beacon. Any questions about those? Okay, level data validations. So level data is a super easy and really awesome tool. It's one of my favorite parts of working in PowerSchool because it provides some help and support to make sure that your data is clean and you've got everything entered correctly. And we've got a whole tab here for Read to Succeed. So this is when you navigate to the data validation page, you'll see this whole series of tabs at the top. And these are all of the different classifications for the validations that are available in PowerSchool. And Read to Succeed has its very own tab that's highlighted in that top screenshot. And within that tab, you'll find that we have 4 validations listed here now. And these will provide you like a window into your data. And so you can always kind of tell from the title what essentially the validation is trying to capture. So for example, in the second row there, you can see that one of the records has a missing post-assessment score. And actually, in this case, all of our counts are looking really good. We don't have anything that's been flagged. If you do have something that's being flagged, you're going to see how many records are affected in the count column on the right. And the action is going to have a fix button. And when you click on that fix button, it's going to open a little box that's going to give you a window into the field that's giving the specific flagging the specific issue or problem. So it could be the missing post-assessment score. It could be a missing pre-assessment score or a tool that's missing. I believe that we will be adding another validation here once the page gets updated. We're going to be adding 1 or 2 validations in here to assist with those good cause exemption, with that good cause exemption section. So you'll see this list expand a little bit, probably by the end of summer, that will be in here. So if you don't have access to level data, when you log into PowerSchool, you'll see on your left-hand navigation in PowerSchool down at the bottom, there's going to be this level data icon here. So here, this is just a screenshot of that navigation from PowerSchool, and this is what you want to look for. And the place that you go to find these validations is highlighted here. It's just called data validation. And that will take you to these tabs. You click on Read to Succeed, and then you'll find your list of validations here. If you're not seeing this in your PowerSchool, it could be that you don't have permissions to it. And that would be something to explore in your district. About whether you should have access to level data apps. And there likely is a process for how these how these lists are processed to clean up data. And so your PowerSchool administrator for your district is a great contact point to reach out to regarding that. And just for more information about getting permission, being able to see what's on these pages, knowing about who does the cleanup of these data and when that occurs. It's always a great idea to reach out to your data people at the district level to coordinate on these things and make sure that that everyone is aware of the deadlines and when things will be entered.
Mary, quick question. There are a few folks who are wondering if we can see if it's possible to clarify a little bit on a previous slide. Do you mind if I go back real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Oop. So we have a few folks asking for a little bit of clarification here. And let me see if I can pull one of the questions here. There was a question around other students, and I'm wondering if this is the slide where that question was. Lori, let's see, are you all able to unmute real quick, Lori? Elliot, would you mind letting us know if your question related to this slide or if it was a previous slide? All other
Yeah,
students?
it's this one, actually. It's that
Okay.
towards the end, it says all other students, the post-assessment. Could you just clarify that? I don't know who all other students are.
Jonathan or Alicia, do you want to comment on how the categories are broken out by students?
So I think, yeah, go ahead, Jonathan. Sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I think Alicia might be tied up. So the all other students refers to any non-third grader eligible for retention. So for example, you could have third graders that were not eligible for retention that just go to camp because they want some extra support. Or it could be any K through 5 student. So third graders eligible for retention is one category, and all other students is the other category. So that's how it's divided right there. Does that answer the question?
It
Yes.
does, but does that mean we're not supposed to, we would not give them, we use iReady where I am, we would not give them an iReady at the end of camp to check how camp went?
I think for all other students, iReady is listed as an exam, correct, Jonathan?
Oh, I just meant when we're administering it.
Got
You know
it.
what I mean? It's
Understood.
almost 2
Okay.
months from
It
camp to
can,
school.
it can be done at the end of summer reading camp if that's what you want.
Okay.
That's not a problem. Yes, that's my understanding. You can do it there. And the reason it was saying for the fall was simply for those people that may be, that are not required to be there. And so maybe they're not there at the end of summer reading camp, you would use the fall score.
Okay, thanks, Marie.
So if I could chime in on that,
Please.
I think the districts, I'm trying to remember when this was established, but essentially you can use the spring assessment and the fall assessment as the pre and the post.
And Jonathan, I think what I understood, Marie, what you're saying is that the fall assessment, it's okay to administer it outside of the normal administration or the usual administration period for that fall interim assessment. Is that?
Okay. Outside of the normal window, I think it was just to, if it's easier for the districts to wait and test those other students, the ones that don't have to be there, that are not necessarily eligible for retention. But if it makes it easier and so the districts have less testing, you can use that fall as their post for summer reading camp. But many of you would want to go ahead and give it, if you want to go ahead and give it at the end of summer reading camp, that's fine.
We may circle back to that once Alicia is off that call. But that is a good question, and I think we have several people wondering about that. Let me follow up with Alicia, please. Thank you,
Okay.
Marie.
Sounds good. All right. Maybe I'll move back to where we were.
Do we have other questions in the chat here, or were they all pertaining to that?
I think a lot of them did seem to be connected to that. So
Okay.
we'll maybe circle back. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll get some clarity then when Alicia is available. Okay, so EdFi data publishing. So once you've done all this wonderful data entry on the Read to Succeed page, and you've assessed your level data validations, and everything is showing green, and you're feeling good about everything that you've gotten in there, that's wonderful. It needs to go somewhere, right? It's never just, finish it and leave it in the PowerSchool SIS. It has to be published. And so it has to be published to the district ODS. And when it goes to that district ODS, it gets swept up by what I think of as like a large vacuum cleaner. It comes through and it sweeps it up and it brings it all up to the state. And that's an overnight process that happens for us, and it happens every day, even on the weekends. And so this is, again, another really good thing to reach out to your district PowerSchool administrator to better understand when that data publishing occurs, because it's going to vary according to district, and every PowerSchool administrator is going to have their own schedule for when things are published. So be sure to establish good communication with that PowerSchool admin to better understand what the schedule is for publishing. And your Read to Succeed data are published from the student enrollments category in PowerSchool. And we have, I think, actually, Wendy, we should probably skip to that slide. Yeah. So here's what the publishing dashboard looks like in PowerSchool. And again, your view of this might look a little different based upon the permissions that you have. You might not have permission to it at all, but certainly there's a data person at the school level or at the district level who would be able to work with you on this and help show you these kinds of things that are there. But this is what the publishing dashboard looks like in PowerSchool, and you can see some of you who have this icon on the far left. It says data exchange, so it's highlighted there in blue. And so when you click on that data exchange, you get the option to go to the publishing dashboard, and this is what you'll see. You'll see on the left-hand side a series of categories. And basically, this is how all of the data are grouped when they are published. And this publishing dashboard has a hierarchy of publishing from top to bottom. And so as data are being published, data are usually published in that order from top to bottom. And student enrollments is going to be, if you can see like that box that says data categories there, and there's two arrows that come off of that. That bottom arrow, the student enrollments it's just a little further down than that. So student enrollments is right there. And the information that is needed at the state level is published from there. To the right of those data categories, you can see just a couple of additional columns that will actually show you when data are publishing. So when you hit on the far right, the schedule button on the screen, you get the option to initiate the publishing of that category, and you'll start to see the numbers in those three columns in the middle there. They will start to change as the data starts to move through PowerSchool and out to EdFi. And so you'll see those numbers change as data is moving through the system. The middle column here, that's the review and resolve, gives you the results of that publishing. And to the left of that middle column are the columns that show you what the outcome of that publishing is. So it tells you how many errors you have. It tells you how many pieces of data have landed in EdFi. it tells you, it has a category just before the schedule column there, which tells you when information was last published. And so that's a helpful piece of information to you as well. If you look at the last activity published column, the second from the right, if you see that data has not published within a week and you were expecting data to go up overnight, that might be something that you would want to reach out to your PowerSchool admin about to ask them to say, hey, I kind of thought we were going to have a scheduled published last night, and I'm seeing under the last activity column that something published just last week. And so you'll want to keep an eye on that to just see that your data are pushing through. You'll see in that middle column there, the review and resolve, that one of the boxes there is in red, and that's an error. It tells you that PowerSchool was trying to send data out, but it encountered a problem. It either encountered a problem as it was leaving the SIS, or when it got out to EdFi land, something happened and EdFi kicked it back. That's usually what that is about. And so it's a sign that some data need to be fixed. What's really important to understand about errors is that records that have errors, they're not published to EdFi. So if you're looking at your student enrollments category and you're seeing a red box in the review and resolve column next to that, that's an indication that there's some problems and that those records have not published to EdFi. So it's really important. Your PowerSchool administrator knows all about this. It's really important to stay on top of those publishing errors, simply because that's data that's just not making it to EdFi, and something needs to happen on that data in order for it to be rectified and then published again. Just highlighting too that the district changes. So when a district makes a publish from this dashboard, it goes out to a district data warehouse, a data store, basically, that is later brought to the state, and that transfer to the state happens in the evening. So data entry that you're making during the day, as long as it's made before 7 p.m., if it lands in the district ODS before 7 p.m., it will be swept up into the state ODS overnight. And so, so that's an important time period to keep in mind. If you're wanting to see that the state has information the next day, it's actually the day before by 7 p.m. that is your deadline.
Mary, we have a question coming up too, and I don't know if we want to address this right now. Question coming in about initialization. Is that because we know that with Read to Succeed, we have data that's also needing to be published with the subsequent year. Is that something, Mary and Jonathan and team, that we want to speak to at the moment, is initialization?
So initialization, as many of you know, initialization is what happens to clear the page, the Read to Succeed page. And so if you have not yet run your initialization in preparation for the upcoming camp, now is the time to do it. Prior to any kind of data entry for the upcoming summer camp, run that initialization. That will clear out the page and give you a new clean page to work from for the upcoming summer camp. The future of initialization, that will be going away, we anticipate, in the long term, and the reason we have it for this year and it's needed for this year, but the future of initialization is a process that will be retired. Ideally next year, that will not be the case, because we will actually be storing data in the future on the Read to Succeed page, and this will give you the ability, the wonderful ability, to be able to flip back to last year's information and see how a student did in camp. If they were in camp and they had data from last year, you'll be able to see that stored on the page. And so we won't need that initialization process anymore, because we won't be clearing out that page. We're not going to dig a whole lot into that today, because that's not the process for this year. Everything is still the same normal process that you're used to. And so those are changes that we'll be talking about for next year's summer reading camp. But for this year, the process is unchanged. And
Thank you, Mary.
and so this slide kind of refers to both of those things, the second and the third sections there, that the Read to Succeed page initialization is going to be removed, and that we have longitudinal data storage coming. And so that I think is going to be really exciting, because it means that PowerSchool users are going to be able to see right there immediate information about how students have done in previous years. So that's going to be really exciting. So we have some additional resources about this data entry. I don't know about you all, but I need to have my tools to be able to refer to keep all the information working up here. And so we have some additional supports available for you should you need to access them. You're going to see on the far left-hand side here, we've got this Read to Succeed 2026 update. And this is handy reminders about where you can some of the reminders from these presentations that you've participated in, and about the data entry that you need to complete. It'll have deadlines in there, reminders about how to use good cause exemptions, reminders about attendance, reminders about who we are recording data for. All of those reminders are just summarized here in the Read to Succeed 2026 update instructions that are here. So these links on the side, Wendy, I don't know if you're able to do that. It would be great if we could put those in the chat maybe once we move into question mode. But so the Read to Succeed memo here, or instructions here on the side, are actually available on our SysDocs website. I'd like to highlight the key docs from ORDA. We have the SC School and Program Setup Guide. If you need to set up a summer reading camp in PowerSchool, then the summer the School and Program Setup Guide gives you all of the instructions on how to do that, and has specific instructions at the back of the guide for summer school and Read to Succeed specifically. So make sure you find those in the appendices of that document. We also have our Student Information System Data Entry Manual. I will say that, so this is a big manual that has lots of updates on, or lots of information on how to enter data into PowerSchool. So if you're ever entering data in PowerSchool, not only for Read to Succeed, but for any other page in PowerSchool, and you come to a field and you're like, well, I don't really know what to put in here. The SysDem, is what we call it. The Student Information System Data Entry Manual is a handy dandy 160-ish some page document that you can go to reference and find individual fields and get a little more information about what you're supposed to put in those fields. And then the last one here is the screenshot to the left, the 2026 update instructions. Other tools, I do want to mention too that with our Student Information Data System Data Entry Manual, we do need to make some updates in there that are relevant to the new information that's coming out in these presentations. So with our April PowerSchool State Reporting update, that System Data Entry Manual is going to receive those updates for the Read to Succeed. So those page updates aren't visible yet in the data entry manual, but they're coming, and they'll come in April.
In terms of just a quick thing, since we do have a few questions about, or a question about setup procedures for summer school, at a basic level, the setup for the school, I don't believe is any different. Does that track with your understanding too, Mary? I don't think there's...
There's a special program number that's used for Read to Succeed programs, and I believe, I don't think we would ever run into a situation where you would have more than one Read to Succeed program, but you could have sites, for example. So like if you're running a Read to Succeed program and you have different sites, there's some guidance in that setup guide about the code number, the 3-digit code number that you use just for the Read to Succeed program. But then you would append some site numbers on that. So like you might append 001 or 002 if you wanted to have separate school setups in your PowerSchool for each site. And that's really a district decision how they want to handle that. You might want to have all of the students for Read to Succeed under one program number, but you could potentially break it down into different sites. And that gets into kind of that summer school setup guide. It also has some information in there about dates. And so, and when you have summer school, you need to make sure that your term dates are set up appropriately in order for your summer term to be counting for your future year in PowerSchool. So with our academic school year, even though our school year typically starts in the fall, summer of 2026 actually applies to the 26-27 school year. So our summer programs actually are what begin the 26-27 school year. And so that's school setup guide references that information and gives more information about that.
Those are great details. Thank you for those. I think that hopefully helps people kind of consider what their situation is.
Yeah,
looking
and
through the
certainly
chat.
if people are confused, you can always reach out and ask questions, and we have lots of resources here, other PowerSchool admins who, we can refer you to help, understand how some districts do it differently.
Absolutely. Before we move on to the next slide, just a tiny, sorry to sort of break the flow here with a quick housekeeping thing, but since we have a few people who've asked this, we do have the question popping up in the chat of, will you all have the recording and the slides? We always like to make those available if possible. We do have some agency internal processes that we have to kind of check on each time to make sure that, everything that we have goes through those, and sometimes we find typos here or there that we want to fix before we send them out. So it's not always immediate, but we'll confer internally to make sure we can get you guys what we're able to get you, and hopefully in some format we'll have recording and slides for you as long as there are no hiccups with that process. But we're glad that you're here in person as well. That's always good.
So
Great. Sorry, Mary.
I'm seeing in the chat here a question from Eric about problems with a level data validation for students who attend Read to Succeed but move out of district. I suppose once the Read to Succeed program has ended. Is it a particular, like one of the specific level data validations, Eric, that's causing that problem? So there definitely are new rules that can be written for level data validations. And if you can give us the specific use case that you're encountering that's not matching with the validation process, we can always work to write new rules to make the validation more accurate for the real world situations that y'all see. So yes, level data validations can always be tweaked to be made better and more accurate to what you're experiencing with your program. Okay, so questions from the field.
Yeah, it looks like we basically kind of piled a bit of an FAQ here. And Jonathan, I don't know if you want to jump in for any of these or if you'd prefer that we go through all of these, but we can kind of pause here in case there's anything else we wanted to talk about before jumping into any of the sort of FAQs that have been gathered.
I think these slides were covered at the boot camp, the in-person boot camp session the other day. But if you want to show them on screen for the recording briefly, just so somebody can pause it.
Absolutely. Okay, we can do that.
It's a great idea.
We have a few here. You guys can see the answers in red. It's just FAQs. I guess for accessibility purposes too, we can read through them. Mary, I'll read through a few of these, and Mary is really our expert here on the PowerSchool side. But so catch if there's anything that you think needs additional explanation, feel free to jump in. But I'll kind of read through what we have. So the add and 2 years on intensive reading remediation to the IEP GCE language. The answer is that is a great suggestion to help mitigate confusion. We can incorporate this change next year. And some of these are PowerSchool specific and some aren't. So we'll just kind of also say that the main purpose of this session is really thinking about the data entry and submission. So forgive us if some of these really kind of dip into, as Jonathan was saying, to the other session you had that was really more content specific. But obviously the data is there to help make sure that it all connects. So the second bullet says, if a student did not attend camp and has a GCE, do you still complete the other sections? The answer is yes. And then if yes, the second part of the question is they will only have a pre-assessment score, not post, right? And the answer is to this piece, you don't even need to fill that section out. Just mark the qualifying GCE that the student has that mitigates their need to attend camp. And then finally on this slide, we have if a student did not attend camp and has a GCE, do you complete the progress toward proficiency level section and post SRC promotion status? And the answer is no. Just mark the qualifying GCE that the student has that mitigates their need to attend camp. So I know we went through those quickly, but this again is just to make sure you will have them almost like for the record. So we'll, again, like I said, we'll try to get you guys a recording as soon as possible. It'll probably be a YouTube link once this is run through our process. The superintendent's exemption flowchart, this is a great suggestion and a goal that OIS can work toward creating and adding to the third grade retention guidance document next year. Will there be anything to complete in PowerSchool or report on to SCDE for first graders who attend camp? Yes, any student attending SRC, regardless of grade level, must have the Read to Succeed PowerSchool information page completed that includes pre and post test data per Act 114. So we heard about some of those good PowerSchool fields today here with Mary. Third bullet here, can official SC ready data for third graders be released earlier than the middle of July? Those on modified calendars that start in the middle of July are telling students and families they have to be retained days before or days after school starts. Is there a way to have the third grade official SC ready data released in June? So we can relay this request to the Office of Information Technology. That is us for consideration. So this is something that we may have to circle back on for you guys. Yeah, well, we may have to circle back on this particular one, as I don't know that we have any additional information available yet to address this one. Knowing the due dates for expenditure reports, PowerSchool completion page, and superintendent determination documentation so we can share with schools and plan ahead. So OIS is in the process of creating a portal where all reports and surveys will be housed with due dates and more information coming soon. And in terms of planning ahead, I think that is also part of the idea with having the awesome boot camp and webinar pieces that have been put in place here to help you guys have some resources to help you plan. An additional FAQ. Does a certified administrator need to be present each day on campus during SRC? It's strongly recommended, but it's a district decision. All right, next we have how much funding will the state provide, especially with the addition of first grade? How is the funding handled? SRC funds will be dispersed to district in 2 payments. Your CFO should have received the February payment already for the number of prior years for the number of prior year students scoring not met on the third grade reading assessment. And additional funding under Proviso 1A.63 will be distributed in March for expansion of the program to grade 1. And then the final question here, can we get more guidance on documenting IRPs? And the answer is, of course. Please let us know specifically what type of guidance you're seeking and we can assist. All right, I'm going to stop sharing right here because I know we have some slides that have been covered previously, and I know we have some items that our team would like to get in the chat for you all that Mary had just covered, so I'll make sure I grab those. But I'll kind of turn it over to my colleagues here with me today to see if there's anything else that we need to address from the chat or any other thoughts for the group. I know we had quite a bit of time blocked just in case we weren't sure how much we would need, but we may not need all of that time, but we definitely want to make sure we take time to address any questions that are lingering if we can.
I do see that there are some hands raised too. So if you do have a hand raised and you'd like to come off mute and ask your question, please do so. And I'm putting in the chat the SIS documents link where you can find the Read to Succeed update memo and also this student information system data entry manual. They're right there at the top of that page.
And I'll also use some of your direct links too, Mary, just in case. Just in case. Are you all able to come off mute as well? I let us know if we need to unmute you. One person is asking, Mary, so if we have summer reading camps at 2 sites, we can put under one summer school and PowerSchool. I think what we covered earlier is that's a really good question. Is that may be how some districts think of their program. It really kind of comes down to how you want to represent your program there. So technically, that is something you could do, whether or not it's advisable based on how you manage things at your district. You may have other considerations, but I believe, Mary, we do have some folks who do that, and then maybe others who it makes more sense to them to have it split out and use those additional available numbers.
Yeah, and so that's why like the school and program setup guide provides some information about, if you are interested in doing that, here's how you would do it and how you would assign site codes and things like that. That's all in there.
I have a
Can I
question.
ask a question? I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Hi. From the Ed5 point of view, when we're doing it to upload for Ed5, do we need to turn off the rest of the publications? Should we just run the one for student enrollment, or do we need to continue to have them all scheduled to run for the Read to Succeed?
That's a great question. You really do not need to turn off anything else. In fact, typically, and I'm sure Mary, you'll probably have some stuff to add to this, but typically what our PowerSchool administrators are going to do is they're going to have each of those categories that we had shown, and I'll even pull this back up so you guys can see. They're going to have all of these scheduled. So let me share screen real quick and kind of talk through it. A picture is helpful. And so, but you're astute to pick up on what she highlighted there, which is it's a good thing to know that, as Mary said, it's nice to know sometimes if there's a particular category where a particular domain of data is being published, just because it can just come in handy to know that. If you're on the tech side of things, your folks who might be in a different space with Read to Succeed, they might not be as interested in that info, but if you ever had to troubleshoot something or what have you, it's nice to just know that information. And so that's why we point that out. Now, that being said, if for some reason you wanted to just publish Read to Succeed data and make sure it was updated, and you wanted to, for some reason, you wanted to do a manual push of that specifically, you could do that. One of the reasons that we recommend scheduling things from top to bottom to run just sort of like clockwork daily is just because if you do that for your changes in EdFi, regardless, you guys have so many different reporting needs that your districts are thinking about. And there are lots of data elements that might even be used for multiple reporting needs. And so if you're doing that, you don't kind of have to think about it as much. You can just know, well, you know what, every day by 7 p.m., those things are scheduled, those updates should be there. And then maybe if you needed to troubleshoot something, you could go to that student enrollments and dig in there. But yeah, good question.
Wendy, and I'm only asking, this is Sonia from Jasper. I'm only asking because over the last couple of days, I've been dealing with a lot of our information being very slow traveling. We've had to restart it. And matter of fact, probably about 2 hours ago. So that's why I'm wondering when we're doing like the Read to Succeed and we have certain deadlines that are due, can we just push, turn off the transcripts and turn off the surveys and all of that is scheduled, and just push that particular data to make sure that it gets there, it's not getting hang up, because we can't seem to find out why it's doing this, but maybe just push that particular data that is pulling from those data categories. And then after we've gotten that and made sure that it's there, then maybe turn the rest back on. That's why I'm asking that if it's not affecting any other categories.
I appreciate the thinking there. And I would say in a different time, I might have said, oh, sure, that might be something to try. And it's not that that's not an option. So I like
Mhm.
your thinking there, Sonia. I would say we're at a place now, though, where PowerSchool has done a ton of optimization. And what we're seeing is actually quite a bit of efficiency. Basically, you shouldn't have slow moving stuff. Like some categories are slower than others, but if you're just publishing changes, if there's an issue there, we want to help escalate that for you with PowerSchool. So definitely put in a ticket. We'll escalate that, send our team the number.
I
There's
have,
been, you have,
I
okay, good,
have,
good, good, good,
and
good.
I'm really
Perfect.
scared. I'm really
Oh
scared.
no,
It's like
okay,
it's constantly happening. You know, I'm checking the data both the day and night, and
okay.
it's just not moving. It's still I'm running like 2 days behind, and even when we restarted. So, I mean,
Okay,
that's why I'm
there's,
saying we're working through this file 135th, not to rattle on, I'm sorry, but
I understand.
just so you and I just was wondering, when we start if we can ever figure this out or we can't, and I have to
We
keep doing
will.
this. Well, for the Read to Succeed, can I turn off certain things to make sure that particular data gets there? Because I don't think transcripts will be a part of that or grades or anything like that. So that was just
It,
my thought.
Absolutely. For any category of data, you always have the option to undo the scheduling essentially and to just push a certain category or even just to leave it and manually push a certain category. So
Mhm.
yeah, we'll definitely need to, and I'm sorry that your issue hasn't been resolved. I'm glad to know that. We like to know those things. But I do want to clarify, though, for the group, like generally speaking, so we do have things
Mhm.
that come up, right, in technology.
Mhm.
So you're with us, right, Sonia, in that tech space, occasionally something comes up. But right now, we really do have efficient movement of data. So
Mhm.
if there's an underlying issue that needs to be addressed, then we'll definitely address that. And one thing that we have found is that in a couple of cases, districts needed to have they had some processes still trying to run, for example, like to last year's profile in EdFi. I know that
Mhm.
terminology might sound a little weird to some, but we have something called a profile. One thing, as I'm hearing you describe this, that comes to mind is you could have something like that where PowerSchool needs us to nudge to say, hey, could you check that profile thing? So that's something that we can do for you and see if maybe there's just something, some little thing that's
Mhm.
making a big impact in your system. So we'll get to the bottom of that. But absolutely, you always have the option to just publish one category.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
I have a question. I wanted to know in regards to the pre and post for the test, in regards to the third graders that are eligible um, for retention, there would be a pre-test, which could be STAR for them, correct? And then for the post-test, there for the students that are eligible, they would take STAR. But for those students that are not they may come to the camp, but they're not necessarily eligible. Those students can still take the STAR beforehand and after, correct? We don't have to wait until you're saying the fall. Is that correct?
Yes, let me explain about the fall and how that came to be. Some districts, you have a contract with MAP or STAR already, or whichever normative assessment you use, and they charge you for extra administrations of that. And so, which is why the law says that a normative assessment has to be used, norm referenced assessment has to be used. And so you can't just use any assessment at the end of summer reading camp for those other kids, but you definitely can give it to them at the end of summer reading camp. Certainly that would be probably the best information you've got for pre and post. But if you're having to pay extra for an additional MAP test, then you could wait until the fall when you give it for the official score. But for those that are eligible for retention, it needs to be the pre and the post right after summer reading camp, or the post right after summer. Hope that makes sense. Does that
That
answer
does.
your question?
Yes, that does make it more clear, but I do have a quick question with that. So we know that the students that are needing it because they're eligible due to retention, they have to take the exam after at the end of the camp. But for those students, like you said, you can wait into the fall. What if your school decides to change the interim assessment that they're taking the next year? And it's not the same that they're doing this year. Would that cause any dilemma if you waited into the fall?
So what you're saying is if you're changing a contract and you're given MAP for the pre and you're going to go to iReady next year and you'll have something different, is that what you mean?
Yes.
So you're talking about for a non-third grade eligible for retention student?
Well, yeah, that's what it would be, because obviously if the ones who are eligible for retention, they're going to have to take theirs at the end of that camp. So we should have that same assessment by the end of that, the summer. But if we waited into the fall and in the new school year they change it, we're no longer doing like we do STAR right now. But in the fall, if they decide to change it to a different assessment and we wait until for the fall for those first graders who were not for retention, and then those if any third graders came that weren't being retained, but they just came for the camp to get extra help, then would that cause a dilemma?
Well, I think your data would certainly be cleaner if you're using the same assessment, because you're going to have to go and try to, make them equitable, make them determine what the right percentile is and that sort of thing. So it would be cleaner if you use the same assessment for pre and post, as long as it's a normative assessment. And the other thing that is a concern of ours is over testing the students. And so you use one assessment, you can't go back and give them, like if you do math, you can't go back and give them STAR to get a different result. And to make them have good cause exemption. I'm fumbling over my words. I hope that made sense. Jonathan, you might want to add to that.
Yes, I
I
would
understand.
prefer. Yeah, I would prefer, if possible, if you're going to do, for example, iReady in the spring, that you don't do map in the fall. But I know that's not always really up to us, that or the districts. The districts have to make their own decisions on what they're switching to. So if it is possible and you have the funding to be able to, do that test at the end of camp for all the students, I'd say go for it if it's going to keep your data clean. Because if you scored, I don't know the actual scores, but say you get a 100 on map and then you switch to iReady and you get a 438, like I'm not going to be able to include that in the data and in our dashboard that we're looking at, because it's a different type of assessment and I can't really judge easily if that's growth or what, because we have so many types of assessments. So yeah, you can use if you have the capacity and the budget to be able to uh, get the students to take a test at the end of camp, K through 5, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. If you don't, or if you prefer, just wait till the fall assessment. But the third graders do have to be tested before they leave camp, because that really lets you know, are they going to get promoted or not? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I also had a question in regards to the recording. Do we need to put our email in the chat to make sure we can get the copy?
I don't think we'll be able to take it in that particular way. So if you received, what we typically do when we send out recordings is we use like our district entity management system, our DM system, and we would send out to the contacts. So basically the contact list who received information about this training would receive that. And if you sort of got it secondhand from somebody, I would maybe touch base with that person to say, hey, can you also send me the recording when it comes out? We just don't have the ability to we have a lot of people here, so the chat might not be a way for us to grab it as easily.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And just to button up, so Jonathan and Marie, would we say that maybe the same logic would apply for spring versus summer? We've got one last question related to this. They're saying for clarification for third grade, they must have the same formative and can't have MAP from spring and iReady from summer, correct? So is it the same logic applies that you all just explained, but just with different seasonal administration windows here, or is there any additional consideration with summer?
I'm not sure I'm understanding. So I'm going to reread the question just for clarification. For third
Sure.
grade, they must have the same formative and can't have MAP from spring and I ready from summer, correct? Yes, that is correct. You need to have the same formative for those third grade students in the pre and the post.
Okay, good. And it sounds like based on the last sentence there that aligns with a level data validation that exists. So that's good that there's alignment there. Use that
Yes.
level data. Awesome. Well, guys, I'm going to stop sharing here. It looks like we've addressed a lot. I really appreciate that there was so much engagement and you all sharing your questions. Again, I know you guys love to get the slides and the recording, so we'll do our best to get that through our process as quickly as possible. And we'll again send those to the folks who received the information about the meeting. Any last questions for the good of the group before we wrap up? We're a little bit over an hour, but I'm going to just do one last check.
If anybody has any other specific questions for us, if you want to email us, we'll be happy to answer those, and or you can give us a call and we can talk through it.
I have one clarifying question. So for the first graders who are attending summer reading camp, they also need to have an end of summer reading camp post-assessment? Is that correct?
Yes, any student attending camp should have a pre and a post, but it's not as critical for the first graders as it is certainly for the third.
I have another question also. I'm sorry. For the student program piece, do we need to add the Read to Succeed students to that?
Oh, for the student programs as like a what we used to call a special program, but the student program.
Because I noticed that there's a lot like we do for the virtual students and different stuff. I know that there's a tab on level data for that. Do we need to add our Read to Succeed students to that special programs list as well, to that field?
That is a really good question, and I'm wondering if what you're hitting on there, Sonia, is oh man, Mary, keep me honest, because I feel like that may be what I would almost say like is like a relic of an old process. I don't want to say that's never been done, but hold tight. Let me just check with my colleagues. Am I correct all that we're not, I think we're relying on the Read to Succeed page at this point.
Okay, great. That's even better.
Okay, Mary, Jonathan, team. I don't
Yeah, that's what I understand. Okay. I don't think that special programs has any relevance to the Read to Succeed data.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would say, yeah, that being said, I don't know. I hope my team can kick me under the table or flat out call me out if this is wrong, but I don't know that there would necessarily be any harm if it helped you internally to track, to do that. But I think in terms of state reporting, yeah.
Don't have to do that. Okay, sounds good. One less.
Great question.
Okay,
great question.
Bye, guys. I ain't gonna bother y'all no more today.
You're good. We're glad you're here. Good question.
Wendy, if I could chime in for a second.
Yes.
I put in the chat this information about the superintendent GCE spreadsheet. If people want to look at that, but just for the recording.
Nice.
Last year, we collected data through ADT for every student who received that superintendent GCE, and it was a bit cumbersome, probably for the districts and for us. So this year, we are simplifying to just a simple spreadsheet. I'll provide the template. Really, it's just going to be information that helps. It may be the son's ID number or maybe the student name, I'm not sure yet. But since it's going through our official ADT system, I believe we can collect it in that way. And then you would just share a brief reasoning behind the reasoning behind why the student was promoted. And it could be any number of reasons, and that's one of the reasons why we can't put that in PowerSchool yet. We're collecting data on what those common reasons are, and then maybe in the future we'll be able to look at that so that everything is just in one place. So I will have a few common reasons in there, I believe, and then we'll have another option where you can just fill in the background behind the decision. It does not have to be long. It can be very brief. We're just trying to get an idea of common reasons why our districts might do superintendent promotions.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Jonathan. And I think they'll appreciate that it's right there in the chat if anyone missed that. And Jonathan's got it linked to right there, 2026 Summer Reading Camp contact list.
Yes, that is a separate statement. I'm sorry, Wendy. But yeah.
Oh, sorry, did I get the wrong one? Okay.
So the other message is from 1257.
Okay.
But for the SRC coordinators, if you haven't yet, and I think we've had about 60 districts who have already done this, go ahead and let me know your primary and secondary preferred contacts. When we look at the dean's list, sometimes there may be 6 or 7 contacts for a district tied to summer reading camp coordinators, and I want to make sure I have the right point person or point people so that I can send helpful reminders to or anything you might need over the summer. I just want to be here to help, and I want to know who needs the help, if that makes sense.
And that'll also connect back to what you did say at 12:57, if y'all are following with us. So that list of folks then would receive that sort of template, so to speak, I guess, and then be able to submit that via that ADT process as well. Is that correct?
Yes, I will probably email the spreadsheet out once we get it completed. I'm hoping in the next couple of months.
Okay.
And then we will also put it on our summer reading camp webpage. I'll go ahead and put a link to the summer reading camp webpage in the chat, and I'll also put my email address in the chat.
Fantastic. And one last note too, for the good of the group, as I'm looking through chat, Marie made a clarification for someone earlier and has kindly also put this in the chat for you guys. So just a reminder that attendance should be taken for all students attending the SRC regardless of grade. So just a good reminder. All right. I think we've hit most of the questions that have come up. We've had some good technical and policy questions. Got some good links in there for you all, and some information pending. Also, a place for you to help us, beef up the contact list. And we really appreciate you all being here today, and look forward to moving forward with you to get quality Read to Succeed data in there for our students and for all of you. So, have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Was he still going to give his email address?
Oh, yes, sorry, I'll wait. Good call, thank you. I was moving too soon. There we go.
Yes, I just dropped it in, and I'll add Marie and Alicia on there as well. Thanks, everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you all. I'll give everyone a minute to get that in before closing the meeting.
And Alicia has asked if we could capture the questions. So I'm not sure who has the rights to like copy the chat or get a copy of the chat, but if you could do that and send it to us, we'd appreciate it.
We will check. It looks like one of our colleagues may have made the meeting, and one of us should be able to grab it to capture those. Yes. And we may be able to get some notes consolidated to capture some of those questions as well from the recording too. All right, thanks guys. I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting. Hope you'll have a great day.
Thank you.